Well, it is good to see everybody again at the Village Board. It has been a while. As I'm sure most of you have seen, we've started construction on the Manville Road Corridor Improvement Project. So far as we can tell, based on meeting people in the street, things have been going pretty smoothly for us. Haven't had many incidents out there, and we're moving pretty well. Unfortunately, we are coming up on winter, so we are going to be shutting down in the next month or so, weather pending. So we're working with the contractors to leave, everything buttoned up safe and sound for the winter so that we can undergo routine snow plowing maintenance. What I'm here tonight to talk to you about is something that we spent a lot of time talking about during the design process, and that is the extra set of signal heads at Wheeler Avenue. Just to give the board a little bit of history and just a recap, if you recall, we had spent many, many years going all the way back to early 2000s, envisioning a project along the Manville Road corridor. We'd gone through a lengthy process of securing grants and funding. And as we got close to making that happen in the 2020s, DOT at the last minute said, hey guys, we were doing our final review on this. And, we realized that signal at Washington and Wheeler is actually one traffic signal under our standards. And we want the village to undertake replacing the entire signal. And we fought back pretty hard, saying that, it's a little late in the game to be adding $500,000 of cost to a project. This is an existing condition. If the board recalls, we had several back and forths with DOT on this. And ultimately, where we landed with DOT, which was the most cost-effective option they were willing to let proceed, was to eliminate the second set of heads, which is the set of heads at Wheeler Avenue. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen. It's easier to point to a picture than try and describe it with words. Bear with me one second. So everybody should be looking at a picture of the intersection.
You are.
Okay, good. And if the board recalls, let me bring up a more recent photo. This steps you back a little bit. So you have Washington Avenue, Wheeler. You have this first set of heads here and here at Washington. And then in the background, as I zoom in, you have that second set of heads, which are at Wheeler Avenue, right here. And what happens is you have this second set of heads, which don't necessarily match the first set. And you have a flashing red light here, which controls the parking lot. It's just a stop control. And the DOT had said, fine, we'll let you keep the existing signal. We won't make you upgrade it, but we want this second set of heads taken down. That led to a lot of concerns about not having any type of signalized intersection here at Wheeler Avenue. We've continued to be working with the DOT in the background to try and resolve that issue. Because there is a safety concern with having crosswalks here at Wheeler without having any type of signalization. Also, you still do have the entrance and exit here for the municipal parking lot. And what DOT is finally said that they would review for modification to the highway work permit is a solution where we do eliminate. So again, I've changed plan views now. This is Washington Avenue, Manville Road, Wheeler Avenue. This is the first set of lights that you see as you approach coming down Manville towards Washington. And this is the strand line with the second set of heads on it. What they agreed to let us do was just remove the heads that face east. Right? North is up on page, east is to the right of the page. But they said they would only let us do that if we install a mast arm at the intersection just past the driveway entrance to the existing parking lot. So what would happen is we would have two new heads on this existing strand that face the parking lot. The parking lot would be under full signal control, not just a flashing red. We would rebuild this cross section to meet ADA standards as it exists today. So you'd now have crosswalk. We have to relocate the pedestrian heads. Currently in the contract, they were to be removed because, again, this would be unsignalized intersection in the current condition. So we'd relocate the pedestrian heads to make them closer to the crosswalks. Both you'd need to relocate this pedestrian head closer to the intersection of the crosswalks, and you have to relocate this one because the new crosswalk is closer to Manville. We would also now have a painted stop bar here. So as you pull out of Washington and make the right onto Manville, there would be a full stop control. Just to give you a better visual of what we're talking about, this is the current condition. This is, there's actually another head back here off the photo right here. And this is your other head here at Wheeler. You're making the left. Here's the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, or the municipal lot behind Dunkin' Donuts. And what we'd be proposing to do is, again, remove this head and this head, and you would have a new mast arm with full signal control. And instead of having just a flashing red here, you'd have two sets of lights hanging down for full control at this intersection. We'd be maintaining this crosswalk here, and the current plan is proposed to be eliminated. And again, we're tying it in with this crosswalk here. So we wanted to come before the board tonight, get your feedback. Obviously, this would necessitate a change order or order on contract, because we would be increasing the scope of work. And we can talk about budgets if the village board would like. But obviously, we have to enter into discussions with the contractor on that if we want to proceed.
It seems like it's that we have to do it. Otherwise, we're going to create the problem with people blocking the box, and we're going to lose the pedestrian crossing for folks trying to cross Wheeler, right?
Correct.
We don't do neither of which. I mean, we've been kvetching about this for 5 years, and finally, this is the first breakthrough, right?
It's the first breakthrough. It's the most cost-effective breakthrough, and it is also going to create the safest condition out there for pedestrians.
So it seems like it's a no-brainer. It's too bad to have it happen at this moment, as opposed to way back when, but better late than never. And it's earlier than the point at which we would have work to tear out.
So it looks good to me. I just have a question about the timing of the lights. So if a driver is coming east to west on Manville, they would see two sets of lights still. Is that correct? Or they would only see one set of lights?
No, they would still see two sets of lights, but the reason we're pulling the mast arm all the way back to the other side of the driveway is to create a greater separation between the lights.
Would they go at the same time? Or
the details of the operation are still, we have to figure that out as we move into the design phase. It's going to be based on how to best move traffic through the corridor and how to combine it with the pedestrian crossings. So I do believe you'd be in a similar situation as now, whereas you have the potential for one set of heads to be green, one set of heads to be red, which is why also you'll have now a stop bar at the second set of heads, which are going to set farther back and going to be a completely different style of construction to help make them look different than what you have now. Right now.
That makes sense to me.
I think having a stop head makes sense too.
It's good.
I think.
Yeah.
You agree, Eric?
How is this different than what's there significantly?
We were going to lose the light entirely.
No. Well, right now, how is it different than what's right there now?
Did you hear that question?
It's a bar that comes across, and that's the only difference. At the cost of what, Rich? $250,000? What's the budget on this?
I'm sorry, and I didn't see who I'm addressing.
Question, Jonathan Cunningham, former trustee who's in the audience, who we allow to kibitz because of his august past, says, how is this materially different than what we have now?
Right now.
Right now. And I guess what I would say about that is back to many discussions we've had. Isn't what we're going to propose, what you have just proposed, the same as what we have right now if we painted out the lights that you see as you come towards the tracks from Manville?
It's a big circle.
In other words, it's
so there's three conditions I'm going to talk about, and I'm not trying to be evasive, but I'm trying to be complete in an answer. The first is what you have now is you have a flashing stop at the parking lot. And now some would argue going to a full signal control there would be a minimal change, but that is one change. The second thing you don't have now is you don't have a stop bar. That'll help control the motorists a little bit. And the third thing, in the current condition is, yes, it's not material different. You have a set of heads hanging off the Strand, but they are closer to the heads at the Washington Avenue intersection. Changing their construction material to a mast arm, setting them farther back. It's not going to be the most grandiose change in the world, but it is going to allow the village to keep a signalized intersection here. And remember, it's not really fair to compare now versus the end of the project, because in DOT's eyes, there is no now. In DOT's eyes, there is going to be an unsignalized intersection at Wheeler Avenue.
Long way around saying
There is no difference, and it's going to cost you $250,000.
this is the solution that satisfies DOT, and it's the only solution as yet proposed that satisfies DOT, right?
Only one that DOT has been willing to listen to, other than completely replace the signal in its entirety, which you can easily, the last time we talked was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. So
To take Wheeler down.
Yes, have to do this. Like take this opportunity, right?
2.5.
Well, what's the budget for just this change?
Oh, the budget for just this change to furnish and install, the estimate is 150, and then design, construction
So
oversight,
200,
probably about 200. Yeah.
Paulie.
Now, Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but the lights were originally put up by DOT, obviously, but now they're no longer in compliance with their MUTCD. And that's part of the issue. This is a non-compliant light.
Correct. The distance between the heads and what's really driving this is the flashing red at the parking lot. That is a non-standard feature in their world.
Even though that's been the least of our problems, the biggest problem has been the possibility of people running the first red because they see the green.
So what happens when you make the left off Washington? Is there a possibility that new light bar is going to be red, and people are going to make the right off Washington onto Manville and run that red light with the parking lot there? Because I run the red light all the time, the second red light all the time, because it's unclear what we do.
That's very easy to do right now based on those head locations, which is part of the reason they're being set back.
You're coming.
No, there will be.
There's come out of Washington and turn right.
You make it right off
Headed towards the bridge.
Mhm.
That cantilever arm is not controlling your route there, is it?
I thought it was. I thought that was a full.
Won't that be? How will that work, Rich?
Well, it will be set back significantly from where it is now.
But it's a fully.
Pictures.
Tell me, is it a fully stopped light?
All right.
All right. So picture's worth 1,000 words. So I've just made my right. Dunkin' Donuts is right on my right. Municipal parking lot. Wheeler's here on my left. See right here, this little green circle, like line hanging down. And you see that right here?
Mhm.
Those are the existing head locations. When you make that right, you're essentially under the heads, which is why it's so easy to run that light. This new mast arm on the other side of the driveway is set back far enough so that you'll be able to see it when you round the corner before making the left. And you'll now have a stop bar here to notify you you've entered an intersection.
Because it's farther away, the people coming down Manville from a greater distance are going to be less likely to see a green there and fail to see the red that's at the corner of Washington.
I don't know, that's that much further than
When you
the
make
lights
that-
are right now going the
Quite a bit
opposite
further.
direction.
When you make that turn currently on the green light from Washington, then there's a left, you can make the left turn on Wheeler at the same time.
Right, that was the
Is
idea
that gonna-
of the light.
Yeah, is there gonna be a turn
Mess.
signal here, or how's this gonna work?
The final design of the signal isn't complete. I'm not sure yet if it's going to have a left-hand turn signal or not. We're working with HVA or traffic engineers to delve through that now. DOT is also going to be reviewing this traffic signal just to make sure that we do have the optimal traffic ability through the intersection or flow.
If cars that are coming from Grant Street end up over the bridge, will they be stopped by a light in their lane?
The existing heads that currently stop them are going to remain. That's here and here.
Okay, fine. So as described, it's been a long, frustrating process and remains so, but it's nothing but good news that DOT would accept this, which means we could keep the pedestrian crossing, right?
You can keep the pedestrian crossing and you can have a signalized intersection. Again, not to bring it all the way back, but a year or two ago, we were talking about what happens when this entire strand is gone. These heads are gone. You're coming over the bridge. You have a box here. People are going to want to stop because they get backed up at Washington and then block Wheeler. So all of a sudden people are going to make the right and not be able to make the left. We were talking about a whole different set of circumstances, safety and other, relative to taking this entire strand down. So I think we're creating a much safer situation now.
So it's your advice and HVEA's advice that we accept this opportunity and run.
It will, yes, it creates a much safer opportunity for the public.
Everyone agree? Done.
Okay.
Release you from your evening's bondage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good seeing
Rich.
everybody.
One last question before you leave. When do you think PCI will close up for the season?
We don't have a definitive answer because of the weather. This time of year does get touchy. I mean, so far till today, we've had a pretty warm year. As long as the weather holds, they're going to want to keep making progress and try and get as much as the peripheral areas done as they can. So I would expect that, towards the early part of December, we're going to have a much better idea on when their last day out here for the season is going to be.
And Mayor, can I?
Yeah, sure.
Is there any thought as to when they're going to close the slip lane? Is that on the schedule at some point here?
Did you hear that question?
I did. Great question. The slip lane, eliminating the slip lane is dependent on many other factors. The first is we have to get the new traffic signal up, tested, and ready to be operational. We also have to have the new right-hand turn lane put in on Memorial Plaza. Once those two items are complete, we can then eliminate the slip lane. The goal right now is first thing in the spring to come back and start working on those signals. And then shortly thereafter, as we move into kind of mid-spring, early summer, start working on the right turn lane. But we don't have that schedule definitive or locked in yet because it's far enough out and very weather dependent as to when we can start.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, but work done so far feels like it's a game changer, just as we hoped it would be.
Excellent.
Thanks, Rich.
No problem. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So next item on our agenda was a discussion regarding the potential sale of the Cooley Street permit parking lot.
Should we push this till after the general meeting?
Let me share this screen.
I'm the filibuster.
All right, you got that? I think for the benefit of those people who are watching and maybe not in the room, but for the benefit of all of us, this is an aerial. Here's Memorial Plaza. Here is the post office. Here's the building that has Starbucks in the front, and here is the diner. Over here is the work in progress of the building being built at 70 Memorial. And this property right here, which includes this construction yard, which we have provided an agreement with the contractor to use temporarily, was formerly the site of Lane Plumbing. The village bought that in 2010, something like that, 10 or 11 years ago, and demolished the remaining buildings on that site and have used it ever since for a parking lot, permit parking during the day, free parking for all after 3 p.m. on weekdays and on weekends. In the world of the pandemic, things have morphed a bit. and it has not functioned exactly the same way. We've had plenty of parking over Memorial Plaza. That's allowed us to give this logistics site in an agreement with the developer of this building. The post office trucks, which formerly parked over here next to Key Food, have been mostly parking here. There's been a lot of flux, but at any rate, in the course of this conversation and in the course of the construction of 70 Memorial, two things are going to happen. One is there will be a landscape walkway alongside the new building that connects Memorial Plaza to Cooley Street, and that landscaped walkway will be built and maintained by the owner of 70 Memorial, but has a permanent right of public access. So for the first time ever, you'll have a graceful way of walking from Memorial Plaza down to Cooley Street. The other thing that the developer is required to do is push Cooley Street through as a full two-way street. And that involves a bunch of changes in this vicinity. In the course of this, we've had an ongoing conversation about the possibility of selling this lot for a different use. And obviously, one of the things that's been in the way of that for us has been the significance of that parking, perhaps a little less significant at the moment for permit parking, but no less significant day to day for parking for nearby retail, for evening restaurants, and the like. Long story with quite a bit of back and forth has resulted in the village receiving an offer to sell that property to construct a new building that would look like this. Let me share again. And the result of this ongoing discussion has produced a bunch of opportunities from the village's side. The first is that if the sale were to be consummated, it would be a deal that requires that this building be office only. And so that would protect any future development on this site from being residential in an environment where we're already seeing quite a bit of residential development in the adjacent building. And then the other piece of it is that if we were to consummate this sale, the current arrangement is that we would be paid a pretty significant number that I can't divulge at the moment because we're remaining in conversation, but a very significant number, not dramatically dissimilar from what we paid for the lot. But we would also get back here on the first floor, entering through this space, about 40 of the 48 parking spaces that currently exist on the lane lot. The rest of this would be developed as office space. And as you can see, a graceful entrance and this glass pavilion. So the result of that is that we find ourselves in a position, and the reason we've continued this extended negotiation is the opportunity to take a site that is currently very useful to us for parking, but a bit dispiriting as a physical example of a civic space, and potentially sell it with the requirements as described, that it be office only, no residential, and that we get back about 40 parking spaces, and that the building you see in this image would be the building that would be produced. So I think it's fair to say I can speak for all of us in saying we think it's an opportunity that's a net benefit to the village. I think it's a significant net benefit to the village. Certainly, we're all well aware of the concerns folks have about development ongoing right now. This piece is smack dab in the middle of the single block that we looked at intensively in 2016 and 2017 and produced a new downtown master plan that you can find on our website that allowed this one block to go to 4-story development instead of 3. Plenty of detail about how we got to that decision and what the basis for it was, all available on the web under our master plan tab. But I do think that even amid the set of concerns we confront now, this is an opportunity to take the what will be now a through two-way street on Cooley Street and create for the first time in generations a real street front there, and at the same time preserve for very little cost the opportunity for permanent village ownership of 40 spaces. So obviously, this is a matter that we'll describe in our town hall meeting, which is going to take place on Wednesday, the 16th. That's 2 days from now. We'll describe it as I have now, show these images, and engage folks who have an opinion. So, any of my colleagues want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think the thing to think about this is that, and we'll talk more in the meeting on development, is that there is, even for anybody who doesn't think that we're overdeveloped in residential by the summer with the buildings that are under construction, it is certainly possible that developers chasing a peak market now in rental of units could overdevelop the village going forward. And I think that the nice thing that this deal sort of uniquely does is secure this as not as tall of a building and not residential, while securing most of the parking, that we already have there. So it's sort of a way to get it off our balance sheet and preserve it sort of going forward as well.
And further, although it's not the primary motivation, it's a significant piece of this is not only will we pay for this asset, but it then goes back on the tax rolls and becomes a productive piece of our tax base. Jonathan, did you have a comment?
I mean,
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if Owl's picking me up or not, but
We hope it will. So speaking as Jonathan Cunningham, former village trustee.
My concern, and I am not an anti-development guy. My concern is that we've got so much development in the village, and I don't know if we've got too much residential or too much. I don't know the mix. I don't know. I don't think any of us does, and I think that's the problem. And I think the issue that the village is feeling right now, residents are feeling, is that there's just too much right now. We don't know we don't know if we can handle it, what it does to the character and functionality of the village, and that we need to wait and see. And the advantage of the village lot, which is different than the other developments that have gone on, is that this is our option. We own this option. We can sell it or not sell it. And we don't control the Bank of New York. And so we don't, there's a rationale that they can do, any residential or any owner of a piece of property can do what they're allowed to do within, to a degree. And I think that there's ways to manage that, but ultimately dictated by the zoning. This is our option. And I think we are contributing to, I think this is the wrong time to exercise that option and sell it. Personally, the commercial aspect of it, the fact that it is office is great, a nice diverse mix, but that brings with it a whole host of other issues. Certainly, traffic is going to be mixed into that now. There is no way that if this is a Paramount or now Optimum or whatever, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to bring with it a lot more traffic than you might argue the 70-wheeler will bring with it as a residential
70
building,
Memorial.
or 70 Memorial Plaza as a residential building with 75 or 80 units, whatever it is now, where you've got people who are commuting into the city right across the street from the train station. What I do know is that we don't know, and that's my concern, is that I think we should be doing everything we can to sort of slow down the development right now. I'm not saying it's too much. I'm saying we don't know. And to contribute to it, exercise our option to sell that lot right now, and contribute to the overall developmental mix and chaos. And I put that in quotes because some people may not view it as chaos, but the the overall developmental pressure on the village, I think is the timing's not right. And the good news about that lot, you guys have complete control over that. You can say no. And I would urge you to say no right now. You know, it looks a lot like Vito's building. I don't know if he's the developer or not, but certainly they're using the same architects. Is that a 4-story building too?
4-story.
Yeah, so
The
they're
first
taking
floor
full
would be-
advantage of the
The first floor is the village owned parking.
okay. So they're certainly taking advantage of the full developmental potential of the property,
They are.
which I completely understand and agree with. I would too if I were in their
Well,
state.
and that's also the means by which, let me also say, which I didn't say earlier, this will depend upon an agreement by the planning commission and possibly the zoning board to accept the alternative parking strategy that this buyer has in mind, which we have looked at and believe to be viable. But
He doesn't want to dig down another 2
It
stories.
does not involve, at least as of the moment,
Yeah.
any intention to dig down. So-
Yeah, so,
Jonathan, can you talk a little bit more? Because I'm intrigued and I know this is a little preview of what we'll hear on Wednesday
Yeah.
too. Can you talk a little bit more when you talk about the level of development?
Mhm.
I'm old enough so that my mind may be failing, but I don't think there's going to be any major projects in the works if the 2 buildings at 70 Memorial and on Depew Street are finished.
Mhm.
And the Manville Road corridor improvement is finished, that by the summer, the major development that's currently going on will be done. Is it something else that you're thinking?
Well,
no. I'm saying that
But it's not,
It's certainly not.
there's nothing else that's actually.
No, you know what you guys know. I mean, I know that there's 70 Memorial, which is
Right.
75 or 80 units, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what it is, so I don't want to misrepresent it. I know that the Grant Street is another 75-ish kind of
Right.
units. So there's 150 units. God knows what's happening with that building across the street from the firehouse. But eventually they'll figure that out, which is small, 14, 15 units, something like that. But there's the Bank of New York that they're talking about. How many units there now? I'm not even sure.
You mean
units
the
or-
former Chase, way back, Bank of New York, 444 Bedford.
444.
Right.
Yeah, how many, I mean,
I
units
don't
there?
know, I think they're before the planning commission the next time,
Yeah,
but it's.
so whatever that is, I mean, and then there's the wild card of the whole Cary property that's up on, which is different and again, I'm not begrudging anybody their development rights of any of this stuff. All I'm saying is that 150 new units between 70 Memorial and Grant Street alone brings a lot of uncertainty into the within
Yeah.
one block, the
So
heart of the
what you're
village.
talking about, because I just want to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, because those have been in construction now for a couple of years.
Right, but they're not
No,
occupied.
they're not on, for
Correct.
sure. But right now, there's no other major
No.
building that's
No,
approved.
I'm just saying that we don't know besides the construction, we don't know the impact of having all those folks and what that means to traffic, schools. I mean, and I'm not believe me, I argued from your guys' side, the fact that consultants have told us that it's only going to be 4 school children and people want to say that it's going to be 40 and
Right.
go, no. You don't get to say that. I mean, maybe it turns out that way, in which case you can tell me I was wrong. And rarely have anybody been able to come back and say, those consultants are wildly off base.
Mhm.
But
Can I interrupt ever so slightly, just a little preview of information we'll present on Wednesday, but I have we've charted out the school population 1976
Yeah.
to present. And although there have been some significant ups and downs, interesting story, there were 1,626 kids in all 3 schools in 1976. And almost 50 years later, there are 1,634.
correct.
So just some interesting stories.
Yeah.
I just say that to identify. I will say,
Being any individual point, except I do think getting a reservation or being spontaneous at a restaurant is going to become a complete non-starter. Once those
being what?
buildings. Spontaneously trying to go out to dinner in the village.
Oh.
Once those buildings come online, they're going to be a non-starter. But
you mean because all those.
Because
people
there's
going down to their
300
apartments
maybe
who have
new
to do it.
people, if
Yeah.
not more, in,
We
you
also
know.
have a lot of empty storefronts.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
as well.
the thing I'm concerned about right
But for the commercial, you're good for some of the good business in the village, no doubt, but
no,
good
but,
for
but,
key food.
but
for key
one of,
food.
but one of the concerns I have, you know, and we're gonna listen mostly on Wednesday, so we're not gonna have this probably rich of a conversation,
yeah,
is, there's the possibility that we may be heading into a recession. Nobody knows, right? We know for sure we've got a significant number of linear feet of storefronts that are not occupied right now, some of which have been not occupied for a while.
right.
If we do something like slap a development ban on the village for 12 months, we could be plunging ourselves into that. If this seems bad, remember back to 2007, 2008, 2009,
Right.
and that kind of a situation. And that is frankly what worries me even more.
So David, here's my pushback on that, is that the development that's already in progress, the developers are gonna have to deal with that, right? That's just, at the end of the day, that's price, right? What are you gonna get, you know, they're talking about $4,000 for, you know, an apartment in the new, maybe it's $2,000,
Yeah.
whatever it takes. That's their issue.
Right.
If you're talking about a recession and you're talking about adding a 4-story office building to downtown
I'm
Pleasantville.
not worried about that. I'm worried about
But
what we get is the retail, you know, the retail clients, we get a percentage of their space.
But they're going to, the retail clients, that's already set. You guys, those
We got
buildings are
vacant
being
storefronts.
built.
We have vacant storefronts.
So can I say?
But
this
those
up-
residential buildings are being built.
This is a totally worthwhile conversation, and
Yeah,
I would be
sorry.
happy to continue it. And we should continue it.
Yeah.
We should choose a time to continue it. But right now, we've got poor Anthony Carr waiting
Okay.
for a discussion that we need to get to for our work session.
Good
It's
preview.
already running late. And so I can report, and I'm going to report the same when we start a regular meeting. Obviously, we won't be able to have that kind of give and take, although we do intend to respond to questions.
Yeah.
To the extent that we can at our
Appreciate
Wednesday meeting and at the beginning of an ongoing conversation. So.
Yeah.
I get all those concerns, and as is true in almost every subject, everybody's a little bit right. But I do think this board has thought a lot about this, and totally understand the timing issue, especially with the recent concerns that were generated by 444 Bedford Road. But I do think at the moment it's a net benefit to the village in our view, but.
And the only other thing I would say about the finance side is that that parking lot was designed to sort of be self-sustaining. And I don't know how many, I don't know what the permit parking there is now these days, if it's full or not full, but that lot is not, it doesn't cost the village residents anything, if much at all.
Right, I mean, we're already on it.
To leave it alone. So yes, I understand completely. If we put a 4-story office building on there, we get no tax benefit from it. We will get tax benefit, but it's not costing us anything either.
But I totally am happy to continue this conversation. It's just, we
Yeah.
gotta get to the next thing.
I understand.
So, come back. Obviously, Wednesday will be in a moment to hear it all. Not a moment to dig into it deeper, but
No,
come back. We'll invite you back.
invite me back. I'm happy to have this discussion with you
I
guys.
get the spirit of what you're saying.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank
We're running late, but we're gonna jump ahead. Anthony Carr, are you there?
Hi, Mayor and Board, how are you?
Sorry to keep you waiting there. You've been running late.
Not a problem.
You have put together, given us memos on standard construction details, revisions to street opening permit, and a memo on a illuminated crosswalk pilot program.
Yes.
Memos are flying out in the new world.
Yeah.
Anthony Carr, Superintendent. You wanna-
Mayor and Board, can you see me or you can only hear me?
You see the picture of the telephone, your famous picture of the telephone.
Okay, I can, okay, so you can't see me. I don't know. I don't think, Eric, I don't think I'm a panelist, so I don't think I could.
To a panelist.
I am, okay, here we go. Now I'm
Hold on.
joining us. Okay.
All right, you're a panelist. See if you can,
Remember the old days when village personnel had to walk through 30 miles of snow to present in front of the board?
I'm gonna make you a co-host for Christ's sake. You're getting promoted repeatedly. All right, let's see if we can see you now.
And Anthony, you're muted right now.
There
Okay.
you are, we see you.
Hi. Okay, Mayor Wayward, and board, good evening. I'll defer to you on where you'd like me to start. I know there's 3 memos. I know we're pressed for time. I can give you the executive summary of the summary for all 3.
That is perfect.
But please, I'll defer to you on the order of the operation.
What do you want to find?
Okay. So I'll start with the Lit Crosswalk project. So first and foremost, DPW is a big supporter of the Lit Crosswalk project. And for those who may have not read the memo, or for brevity purposes, I'll summarize the Lit Crosswalk program. From what I understand from conversations with the administrator, there is a funding source allocated in the Westchester County Executive's office for municipalities, all the 43 municipalities in Westchester County, to pilot what's called the Lit Crosswalk program. You'll hear lit crosswalk, lighted crosswalks, in roadway warning lights. They're all the same thing, but it's more the common buzzword now is lit crosswalk. So there's basically a pot of money set aside. We're not aware, when I say we're, myself and the administrator are not aware at this moment of how much is in that pot or what each municipality is allowed to be allocated. What we understood was we need to declare our interest or our intent to want to participate in this program, and there's no formal process. It really would just be likely a resolution from the mayor, you, and the board, and the memorandum that you see before you, and maybe a cover letter to accompany both of those documents that expresses the village's interest to participate. But the county, from high-level discussions, again, in my discussions with the administrator, and from the pedestrian committee, also speaking to one of the county legislators, they said, look, you'd be the first municipality to do this in Westchester County. If you want it, the county executive, Mr. Latimer, has green-lighted Pleasantville to participate in this program. Now, again, there's nothing in writing, and these are more conversation pieces, but this is what I've gathered in my discussions with the administrator over the last 2 months and several days since I've been here. And well, first and foremost, DPW is very, very much in support of this. Second was, okay, the county said, well, you need to give us some locations, right? You have to go in with some kind of plan, although very conceptual in nature. We did our homework, and we worked with a vendor, which you see in the supporting documentation. There's a quote. Now, that's for reference purposes only. The village certainly has to go to the procurement policy, especially since this is upwards of $80,000, not including contractor cost or even in-house labor, depending on which way we do that. If we do it in-house, we have to rent tools and special machinery. If we do it with a contractor, well, then you're subject to prevailing wage rates. So it's a little bit of kind of pick your poison, but they're both good outcomes in the end. So with the labor, with the cost, it's about $100,000 for 2 crosswalk locations. And what we've identified, based on location, based on traffic volumes, based on certain criteria, i.e. mid-block crossings, meaning instead of having crosswalks at an intersection, a lot of times you'll see in villages, towns, and cities, they'll have crosswalks in between the signalized intersections, right? So those are mid-block crosswalks. They're not exactly the most desirable unless they're accompanied with other traffic control devices like bump outs, kind of what you see on Manville Road, which shortens the distance that a pedestrian has to cross one side of the street to the other. There's a whole bunch of options and pedestrian safety measures that you can incorporate, from LED flashing pedestrian lights to in-roadway embedded lights, to just signage, to striping, to rumble strips on the outside of the crosswalk. You could do a lot of things there, but the Lit Crosswalk project before you tonight for consideration, or at least discussion, is basically a series of lights. So one location would be by the 70 Memorial site, which is currently under development. But in the future, in the spring, summer of 2023, there will be a bump out, a curb bump out, much like you see on Manville Road, near that walkway, Mayor, that you referenced earlier, that the village has in perpetuity for public access from Cooley Street to Memorial Plaza. So right around, basically across from where the gazebo drop curb and ramp is, where that bump out is, right, we're going to marry that and match that up with the 70 Memorial Plaza curb bump out, which DPW is working on in-house for design, along with the angle striping, parking along Memorial Plaza and the frontage of 70 Memorial, which you'll see at a later date, I know that you've seen concepts before that with the prior superintendent and with the administrator. But just to keep the conversation focused, the first lit crosswalk location would be from the gazebo across to Memorial Plaza. But there would be a bump out that's not there now. And then if you go up 2 crosswalks where the Pleasantville Diner is closer to the Manville Road light, there's that second crosswalk about 100 foot in length that goes from the Pleasantville Diner across to where that future interim northern parking area phase will be and potential future improvements, maybe a civic space. But the short of it is those are the 2 locations that do fit the criteria, whether it's primarily because the road is straight. Motorists tend to speed a little bit. Speeds aren't super excessive there. We've spoke to PD. Vehicles look faster than they are. And I get that, especially with trucks and plows. A lot of people think plows are speeding and trucks are speeding because they're loud and sometimes a bit obnoxious, but a lot of the times we found they're actually doing the speed limit or close to. But the greater concern is that you have 3 crosswalks next to each other. You have parking on both sides, which makes pedestrians entering the crosswalk a little bit problematic because you can't see them until they get out from the rear end of the car, which is where the bump outs come into play, especially at 70 Memorial Plaza, which again brings people out and out of the from behind the parking stalls and into the visibility of the motorist. So that's particularly a problem by the Pleasantville Diner as you cross, especially if you're going towards Manville Road from Bedford on the right side. I know I've driven it myself. I'm sure you have many times. Sometimes you can't see pedestrians until they're really just kind of walking out from the rear of the car, even a few feet after that. So these in-roadway lights, there would be at the 70 Memorial Plaza location, there'd be 5 lights, give or take, plus minus. It's a conceptual design, but 5 lights embedded in the pavement. Manufacturers state that there's typically 5-year warranties. They're plowable, they're self-cleaning, and there's all different options available on the market. Solar powered, AC current, which is a hardwired electrical current from a service. There's camera detection, thermal detection, bollard detection, which is motion. There's all different things. So since at a higher level, we weren't really sure, since technology is fairly new in the Northeast and very new in Westchester County. First, we said, okay, let's identify 2 areas where the criteria is checked, right? So they're in the Pleasantville Diner crosswalk. Second is, okay, well, let's not go super complicated yet with the system because we don't know how it responds to cold weather, to freeze thaw, to plows. So what's the balance of something very effective and something that we could observe and versus something that maybe we might want to wait on? So what you have before you is, if you look at the in the memorandum on figure 1, which is the second plan or second drawing, there's 2 illustrations. The top illustration is really just a kind of a general schematic of what this would look like with the poles that have a solar power panel and a controller box. And the poles would be on each side of the crosswalk. So it'd be 2 poles per crosswalk, 4 total. Each would have solar panels at top because that would be the main source of power for the lights. If the solar panels fry or if there's some internal component problems, then we have a backup battery in the black controller cap that's attached to the black traffic signal post. Not a very big post. It's 3 inches diameter, black powder coated, so it blends in with the background. It's surface mounted, meaning there's no foundation. It's bolted directly to the concrete or to the sidewalk. So that avoids excavation. So you have a pole with a solar panel, and this is in the picture too on the bottom below the illustration. You have the pedestrian crossing sign, or from the top, I'll take it. Solar panel, pedestrian crossing sign, arrow telling you that there's pedestrians coming into the crosswalk, a black box or a black cabinet, which is the brains of the crosswalk, because there'll be a backup battery in there, but there'll also be a push button with the appropriate signage saying, hey, there's a push button here to activate the in-roadway lighting system. And then that pole would be mounted to the pavement. And again, there'd be 2 poles per crosswalk, so 4.
Right,
5.
so
Yes.
probably enough detail on that, right? We're going to see what kind of money this county program offers. But you've obviously done a very thorough job, and it seems like a great idea. The pedestrian committee obviously is involved here, and they'd be thrilled to see this happen. So
Fantastic. I'd love to see this.
yeah,
Excellent.
I do have one concern, which is for further down the road, because obviously, as Peter said, we're gonna have to see what kind of money we get from the county and so on. But just because it seems like there are a number of different versions of this system, my concern is about a version in which the flashing lights are sort of strongly directed towards the drivers. Because for some, I have a lot of light sensitivity. I'm prone to migraines that way. And for people who's, have those kinds of things, it can make it difficult. So I was trying to tell by looking at the different examples, how much that would be the case for this, but you don't even have to respond, but just something to think about when we're further down the line.
Well, no, that was mentioned in the memo too, that there will be some concerns about light pollution, and also this is not in the memo, but I understand when you're in two-way traffic, oftentimes if you're looking at someone's headlights, you get that light glare, and really a good rule of thumb is to look down towards the WL, not towards the middle where the car headlights are, because they could be blinding. These are lower intensity, they're more amber lights, so they're supposed to be softer, but you're right, and this is why we preface that it's a pilot, because for as much as there's a lot of strong advocates for this, and believe me, we're very much on board with this. It's still very early. It's still very young. And I know that the pedestrian committee was excited about this. They suggested maybe 8 locations. And my response was, we could definitely do 8 over time. It's going to be difficult doing it on state roads, because anything new with the state is like parting the red seats to get them to buy in. They're antiquated in some respects, the state DOT, others not so much. The county may be open to it, especially since it's a county program. But we suggested, myself, the administrator, were speaking and discussing this. And I think that the department would recommend local roads, maybe 1 or 2 spots, because you're right, we don't know if they're going to be distracting to motorists. We don't know how it behaves with snow plows. So before we go all in, especially with an $80,000 price tag, even rounded up to $100,000 just for 2 locations. And that's with I'm not going to say a bare bones system, but this is not the platinum. This is not a camera detection, thermal detection. I mean, you could spend upwards probably closer to $150,000 on these 2 locations, but we try to find that balance. But we agree, which is why we recommend it only in these 2 locations, and it be a pilot program to study those types of characteristics.
All
right.
Question?
Yeah, sure.
So thank you so much. I had 2 questions. One is there a reason why you want to start with 2 instead of just 1, if there are concerns about, especially since they're so close to each other? Because the 1 location seems to have a logic with the development of 70 Memorial and the reorientation of Memorial Plaza for the main gazebo crosswalk. So I guess I just wondered why not 1 if we're really doing a true pilot program? And then my second question is about the taller flashing sign. So not the in-road one, but the taller sign, because when we had a pedestrian flashing sign on Marble Avenue by Parkway Field, it created a very large backlash from the community about constant flashing, very, very bright light.
Yeah, that was in your face.
But
Right.
But his drawings have.
This will not be.
I do.
Well, I'm just thinking that if we get to the stage where we are getting money, then that's the point where we can do some research and kind of make sure that we like the particular design, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so first question is what sort of money it does appear promising that the county would have some seed money.
Right, so we don't know that yet. It's going to be part of the county budget. They have discretionary funding pot. So what we'll do is I'll propose to add a resolution if the board's in favor, making this funding request to the county. And then we'll see as the county goes through their budget process. We will request a certain amount and see what they're going to provide.
Sounds great. I support it. All right, on to your next one.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. Mr. Mayor and board, we can skip to the street opening permit, proposed revisions for the street opening permit application. So what we wanted to do was include a marked up version with the markups being in red and the original version behind it. So you could do a comparable if you wanted to, a comp, or you could just look at the marked up version. A lot of it's formatting. Some of it's just a little bit more grammar related, but really the big takeaways from the street opening permit application is, from the beginning to the end is really a few things. Revisions to the escrow fees. Now your street opening permit application is required by your village code, by our village code, whenever an entity does work out in the village right away. Digging, obstructing, any excavation or opening of the street, or even really occupying the street, could require street opening permit application. The escrow fees currently now are generally okay, but the feedback that we've gotten from the public is that the escrow fee for any time you disturb asphalt is a bit high. So we did a review of the overall application. So I didn't want to hone in on just one area. If we're going to review it, I'd rather take it from start to finish and see what other areas might need to be enhanced or tweaked. So the escrow fees are refundable, and the escrow fees are based on industry cost. And that basically is if the applicant decides to flee the scene and not finish the job, it's the cost of the village to pick up and finish the work, whatever that may be: sidewalk replacement, curb replacement, asphalt replacement, etc. Those fees, the linear foot of curb is currently billed out at $40 a linear foot, meaning that if you disturb 10 linear feet of curb, you have to give us a $400 escrow fee. It's refundable as long as you complete the work, close it out, and the superintendent approves it, you're good to go. That's the curb. Concrete, or Portland cement concrete, which is the gray surface type known as for a sidewalk. Concrete is, I believe, $14 a square foot right now. So any areas that you disturb within the right of way as part of your improvements are estimated, and that's the escrow fee that you provide. So, for example, if you disturb 200 square feet of asphalt currently in the right of way, you have to multiply 200 square feet of disturbance by the current asphalt concrete replacement rate, which is $50 a square foot. That's a $10,000 escrow fee. If you do concrete sidewalk and it's $14 a square foot, then obviously times 200 square feet, we could do the math. But the rates are not terrible, except the asphalt concrete is very high. I've researched what other municipalities do. Me personally being involved with the municipalities, I also backed into the industry cost, and we're very comfortable recommending that escrow fee be reduced from $50 to $15 a square foot. I mean, you could play with the numbers. I've seen 12, I've seen 14, I've seen 11. 15 is a good buffer. And I think that, for the smaller jobs, for a homeowner redoing their driveway, and I was personally involved with 2 applications since I've been here. The cost of the job is X, but then the escrow fee for such a small 200 square foot area of disturbance between the front property line and the edge of the pavement is a $10,000 escrow fee. If in the case they're disturbing asphalt, which is $50 a square foot. That same example, that escrow fee would be reduced from $10,000 to $3,000 if the fee is reduced. Again, this is not a fee that goes to the general fund. This is a refundable fee to cover the scope of work. So that's the 3 fees really in that application: concrete, asphalt, and curb. Curb staying the same, no change recommended. Sidewalk, concrete, we recommend increasing from $14 a square foot to $20 a square foot. Again, I've seen a little bit more, I've seen a little bit less. $20 a square foot is fair, especially with construction inflation, but the asphalt is very high. And really, concrete should be more than asphalt. There's a lot more workmanship, there's a lot more variables into placing concrete than really rolling asphalt or raking asphalt. So that makes sense intuitively as well.
It all makes sense to me, and as has become your early trademark, a thorough and convincing memo. So
Yes.
And yeah, Mr. Mayor and Board, the other things that are really part of the permit application would be adopting an updated policy. If you look at the attached older permit, there is a policy there on the 3rd page. I believe it was last revised 2017. Every 3 to 5 years, if not less, policy should be looked at and just enhanced and revised to some degree. But I did use policies that I've worked with before with White Plains and Scarsdale, and also kept some of Village of Pleasantville's policies too, and really took the best of all the worlds. And that really protects the village for when utility companies are doing work out in the right of way, when developers are doing work out in the right of way, when contractors are doing work out in the right of way. And the last big change besides the policy and beefing that up is the incorporation of standard detail, not the whole set, but standard detail 6D, which would be incorporated if adopted later on tonight. But 6D is a utility, it's a pavement replacement and restoration scenario, basically for 6 different hypothetical scenarios when a contractor or utility company is involving services, gas service, or water service, any other kind of service between your home and the main out in the street. And when they're actually working on the physical mains, gas main, electrical conduit, any other utility that's not obviously village responsibility. So what that does is that those different utility scenarios, that would be included with the permit application. Now, all the details would be included with the permit application by reference on, I believe, the village policy page, note number 1, where it gives a link to the standard construction details. But we specifically wanted to pull out that multi-scenario service and main work, because that was adopted in Scarsdale in 2016. And I had worked with the prior superintendent on developing that as well. And then Tarrytown adopted it, and many other people adopted it. And jokingly, I spoke to Con Edison the other day, and they laughed. They said, "Oh, we see, you got a hold of Mr. Benny Salonicho, who was the prior superintendent in Scarsdale. We see that his detail made your way," because they remember when that came out. Because what was happening was Con Edison and other utility companies were doing gas work, but they weren't restoring to the appropriate limits, meaning they weren't going curb to curb. They weren't going, 50 feet in each direction. So it became a very subjective, back and forth between the village engineer and the superintendent and the commissioner of public works. So if you have something codified or at least adopted, not in the village code, but at least adopted by policy, the utility companies know up front, okay, when I pull this permit, if I fall into one of these scenarios, this is the restoration that's expected of me. Same thing if contractor A or developer B comes out there. There's no trying to rewind the tape and losing leverage on the village's side. So everybody knows what's expected up front. Many developers and utility companies have seen these details. They've seen that restoration detail that was developed from other municipalities. So they're familiar with it. They rather it not be in place, but that goes to show you that by virtue of them feeling that way, it probably should be, because we're all on the same page, and they can't say that, well, the village changes their mind every time there's a different project. It keeps things fair. It keeps things transparent. And at least there's consistency, and there's a starting point that if we do have to have a negotiation with them, we can negotiate down, but we can go in with the higher ask.
Anthony, I have a question.
Yes.
So when this happens that a contractor is working on a commercial property or a project, and that may require gas or electric or some other work, often it's in the street, but sometimes it is actually in the right of way for the village that is in front of a residential property. And so my question is, my understanding of the existing code is that the contractor is only required to, when they open it up, to close it safely, but they don't have to match the driveway or the pavement or whatever else was there before. Is that true? And if so, can we look at that?
So you mean if a contractor does work on a commercial lot and they're adjacent to a residential lot that's not part of the project, that the contractors have been falling short and not restoring past where they should?
It's more likely a Con Ed job, right?
Well, I think the case that I'm thinking of, it was gas, so I don't
Right.
know.
It's Con Ed.
It was, yeah, what John Hughes had said, I remember the one I'm thinking of at the time was that, they're only responsible for, opening it up and patching it. They don't have to match it to what exists there already, which can cost thousands of dollars for the homeowner.
Right. Well, they should restore if Con Edison is working on a gas main, and depending on where the services come out of the existing or the new building, they are required, depending on how big their trench is and how far they're going out in the street, they are required to go. If you look at detail 6D, it shows 50 feet in each direction. There's a distance depending on what they're doing. The more they do, the further left to right, I'll say parallel to the curb, the further that direction they should go each way. And then if they get to at least kind of like the middle of the one travel lane, they should be going to at least the center. And if they're going a little closer to the center, they got to do both sides. And that's what that detail 6D does. That detail would be part of the standard detail set, but it would be included with every permit application. So whether a contractor is coming in just to do an underground electrical service, or Con Edison's coming in to do 500 feet of main, they'll know right from looking at those different scenarios, because it says to check, each scenario has a checkbox, and it says check the scenarios that apply. So they're going to know early on when they're submitting their application what they have to do before they get final approval. So they should absolutely be required to restore in front of the adjacent residential property.
Okay. All right. Any further comments? It all seems very well put together.
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. And lastly and we touched on it just a few minutes ago, was the adoption of the standard construction details. So we do have standard details now. They are limited and they're a bit dated. So in order to enhance the standard construction detail library. And again, the only intent of standard construction details is so that any non-village entity and the village itself should be held to their own details. But for any non-village entity, that the expectation of what is required within the right of way is managed early on. It's consistent across the board. Some details might change from municipality to municipality. Some require 6-inch thick concrete sidewalk. Others require 5 inches. Some require curbs 12 inches deep below the ground. Others 14. Others 10. There's really no right or wrong. There's just a level of workmanship and service that each municipality will require. And that's based on experience. And that's based on seeing what's right in the field and what works. But you want a good product. Does it have to be the absolute platinum edition? No, but a lot of these things are manholes, how developers connect our water main and our infrastructure, whether it's drainage, sanitary sewer. Right now we have no standard water connection details, which is why developers were allowed to use tapping sleeves and other things, other methods of the water system versus cutting out sections of pipe, putting new valves in, and turning over a better product or a better conditioned infrastructure system to the village. So by incorporating those details, again, developers and contractors will know, and believe me, they've seen all these details, whether they're derived from the New York State DOT, Westchester County DPW, White Plains, Mamaroneck, any of those other places, Harrison, they're all very similar. Things just shrink a little bit in width, things get a little thicker in depth, but it's all the same material. Nothing's requiring platinum sprinkles with 14 karat gold inside. It's all standard backfill. It's all standard material. But some municipalities let non-municipal and locality vendors get away with a lot more than they should. And there's no one home to inspect. And at least now you look, the Department of Public Works is here. Although it's not the hugest department, we still have staff that are competent and capable, including myself, to inspect these things. And worst case is, if they don't call for an inspection, well, then they have to show proof that they constructed to the standards shown on the details. So if there's no standards, you don't know what you're working towards or what's expected, and that lends a lot of confusion early on. And then the developers say, "Well, you said you wanted this, but now you want that." And I said, "Well, I never said that." So it's all right on the drawing board. Every engineer I've spoken to so far said, "Thank God we have details." They'll just put them right on the plans and they'll move on their way, and that'll be it. I mean, again, these are all industry standard items: curbs, manholes, pipe, lights. There's no splitting of the atom here, but it's just to add consistency and transparency and a level playing field for everybody. So it's very important for a municipal engineering department and for locality, no matter how big or small, to have standard details. I mean, that's ground zero. That's the foundation for the rest of the municipal engineering work.
Question about detail. What is the standard for tree protection? That's one of the things in the table of contents. You know what that would be?
Yes, the standard for tree protection. So I didn't incorporate all the details because I didn't want to attach 72 pages to that memo, but I did give you the link and I gave you the table of contents only for brevity, not because I intentionally shortened it. But the tree protection, basically, it's plastic fencing that with wooden stakes. Now, New York City does it a little bit differently. They use actual 2x4s and wooden planking system. But in Westchester County, it's typically orange construction snow fence, but it's installed, most importantly, it's installed out of the drip line of the tree. So rule of thumb, not being an arborist, but working with many landscape architects and having to know this, the fencing would be staked just outside the outermost canopy portion or drip line, if you will, because the root system typically goes at least to the drip line. Sometimes it goes a little bit past that, but by that point, the root systems are thinner and they're not buttress or structural roots or thick feeder roots. They're more fibrous roots. They're smaller, meaning you could trim, you could prune carefully, but the rule of thumb is to place the fencing outside of the canopy. Some people put it right around the trunk. Some people put it inside the canopy or inside the drip line. Not a recommended move. And believe me, I've been educated on that from many professionals who are much smarter than me in vegetative management. But that's on there.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds good. Thank you for this yeoman effort so early in your tenure,
Yeah.
getting a lot of ducks in a row. So we have a resolution on tonight to approve that. Any further comment from anyone?
I'm impressed.
I'm impressed too. Thank you.
Thank
We're ready to roll.
Thank you very much, Board. I appreciate it. And thank you, Eric, for your help as well.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony. Much appreciated.
Have a wonderful,
All right.
Good night.
take care. Good night.
So as long as we're hopelessly late and we have a relatively small audience, we might as well finish the last item on our work session agenda, which was the proposal for Wagner Hodgson. Eric and I had a conversation with them, and then Eric later with Wagner Hodgson and Insite. You want to just update that, Eric?
Sure. So the temporary condition, Mr. Mayor, can you share your screen of that proposal that's attached to
Yeah. You good?
the agenda item? We're looking at the temporary condition of the northern Memorial Plaza, the future civic space area. Right now, we're going to have a dead end parking area. And then really the intention was going to be to put some grass in the other area. But we want to we have some grant funding, we have SAM grants that we could utilize to bring that area one step closer to the civic space. So in other words, make a nice investment in that area that when we already do the civic space, whenever that may be, we don't have to go back and redo work. We've already completed that. So we've engaged Wagner Hodgson with Insite being a sub to them to look at what we can do. So right now around the memorials, we're going to be removing those trees so we could put that right turn lane there. And then the logical next step would be, let's get the trees into the tree bosque area, which is not intended to be part of the dead end parking area. So what would that mean? What type of irrigation do we need to do? We know that there's about 12-inch thick concrete slab under surface. We'll have to remove that. How much is that going to cost? So we want to scope out what the work, the extent of the work and how much that work would ultimately cost. With the idea, when Manville is done, hopefully at the tail end of it, we can roll right into that work.
That's great.
And in the hypothetical that we are delayed with the civic space project for whatever reason, to leave this space in the best possible condition and to make certain that whatever we spent to create it has been spent in a way that builds towards the ultimate goal instead of getting in the way.
But if we decide to move forward with the civic space, this doesn't slow us down.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Gets us a couple steps.
Yeah.
That's the intent.
Yeah, no, it seems like a great idea.
Yeah, so the other positive aspect of it is Eli Sands, who had been our primary contact with Wagner Hodgson on this project since Jamie departed for Points West, has left Wagner Hodgson. We have obviously a bunch of folks involved there who've been involved from the beginning, but haven't been the front point people on it. So this is also a great opportunity to kind of re-engage a project that dates back a while and establish those relationships. So further to the proposal, Wagner Hodgson proposes a preliminary budget of $4,700 for Insite, right? Yeah. And then for the Wagner Hodgson piece, an upset fee of $5,000 based on hourly rates, right?
Yeah, 5,500.
Right. All right. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. All right. We've achieved it. We got through the work session. All right. Are we ready to begin our break? All right. Work session ending. Good evening and welcome to the Village Board regular meeting. Today is, it's been recorded, sorry. Today is Monday, November 14, and we are, as has been the case for quite some time, meeting here at 80 Wheeler Avenue, but also broadcasting via Zoom. Folks who are interested in watching the meeting via Zoom can pick up the Zoom link for this meeting and others at pleasantville-ny.gov. And within a few days, you can pick up an on-demand web link to watch the meeting, both the work session and the regular meeting, at pctv76.org. Our next regular meeting is 2 weeks from today. That would be Monday, November 28th. Work session at 7, regular meeting at 8. Again, same story. You can pick up a Zoom link if you are so inclined. So a number of announcements to make. First and foremost, coming up Wednesday of this week, that is Wednesday, November 16, at 7 p.m. We're having, and I think pretty well distributed the information that we're having a community town hall meeting on village development. There's been a lot of chatter, a lot of concern. A lot of folks have reached out to us about what's going on in the village. An awful lot of things happening. Is it too much, too fast? Is it too much? Is it too fast? Is it too big? Is it too small? Does it make sense? Is it smart growth, et cetera? So we're going to have a town hall meeting that's going to take place in the high school auditorium at 7 p.m. We chose that location instead of having it here because we don't know quite how many people will be coming. Wanted to make sure it was a comfortable and not too COVID tight environment so that folks would have an opportunity to come. That will be also visible to people via Zoom, but if you watch via Zoom, you won't be able to speak. The logistics of that make it difficult at the high school. So if you do wish to speak, you're welcome to do so when you come to the meeting at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. We're going to ask you to put your name on a card so that we can keep a stack of them and call folks up when their turn comes to speak, just to avoid the need for everybody to stand in some long line waiting for their moment to speak, make it a bit more comfortable for all. If folks come to that meeting and would like to ask a question, but prefer not to speak, you can fill out a card when you arrive and it'll be handed to the village board and we'll try to answer it in the course of the evening. We're also accepting questions or comments that might want to be sent to us for folks who aren't going to attend the meeting or want to attend but prefer to send it by email. If you send an email to info@pleasantville-ny.gov, let us know the question you have regarding development. Please include your name and address because we need that for the minutes. And it will be the case for folks who speak at the meeting. But time permitting, the board intends to try to answer as many questions as we possibly can, both those that come via email and those that are asked while we're in the room. So those email questions are cut off for the logistics of that is 5 p.m. on the date of the event, which is Wednesday the 16th. So after 5 p.m., folks would need to come to add a question to the mix. But let me also make clear that we're going to record this. It will be available via PCTV as an on-demand webcast for folks who want to see it again, for folks who didn't see it, for folks who might have heard about it. And I think it's fair to say that we can assure you that we will be listening carefully and recording all the comments that are made. And this won't be the one and only opportunity folks will have to weigh in on this subject. So again, community town hall on village development coming up in 2 days, Wednesday, November 16, Pleasantville High School Auditorium. We look forward to welcoming as many of you who desire to come and engaging with the community about these subjects. Couple of other things to report. On Friday, November 11, we had, as we always do, a Veterans Day ceremony. It was held here in the meeting room because of the threat of bad weather. Shout out, as is the case every year, to not only all veterans, but to the veterans who operate our local Panther Nickel American Legion post, anchors of all of our ceremonies regarding Veterans Day and Memorial Day. So thank you to Commander Tony Vullo and to the Panther Nickel American Legion post, and a very big shout out to the scouts from Boy Scout Troop 12. We asked if they could provide a color guard and also lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and not only did they do so, they did so with 12 young men and military precision and really quite an impressive show. So thanks so much to Boy Scout Troop 12 and to their leaders and to each and every one of the scouts who took time out from the day they were off from school to participate in our service. So, as I mentioned the last time, Sawmill is finally open in both directions. Certainly there's plenty of construction going on south of us, but not here in Pleasantville. That is a very happy report, and we're paying some close attention to the question of how much that changes some of the traffic that we have experienced as people were making detours around that site. So please also let us know what you see about that. Manville Road project, as many of you have seen, is ongoing. Eric, you want to just give a quick update?
Sure. So right now, they're focusing between Brent and Vanderbilt doing curb, sidewalk, and today a fire hydrant replacement. They'll be there for the next week, probably week and a half. Concurrently, they're going to jump over to the sidewalk on the southwest corner of Memorial Plaza and Manville Road. Memorial Plaza, Manville Road in the vicinity of Valvoline and the diner. That's going to be curb and sidewalk as well. They're going to get that far, take a pause, see where that places them in the calendar. Most likely will close up for the winter, beginning mid-December, depending on how cold the temperatures get. So we're doing it week by week at this point. They want to get accomplished as much as they can do before the winter shutdown.
Are the cement plants still open?
They are. What ends up happening is now that they drop past a certain, temperature at night, they have to have a cold weather plan. So it costs them more money to do the work. They don't pass along that cost. So they have to eat it. And so comes a gain for them.
Well, obviously, it's a tough project to undertake, but a shout out to BCI. I think they've been doing good work, and a shout out to everybody involved, dating back probably 10 years to finally seeing a result that I think is really a game changer for us downtown. When the other side gets done in the spring, I think we're going to see a really dramatically improved pedestrian conditions and really a dramatically improved look and feel to that whole Manville Road corridor. So more to come, but exciting to see that happen. And just to remind everybody who might be listening, the lion's share of that project, about $1.7 million, is coming from a state grant, give or take $750 from village funds. So our bang for the buck, I think, is quite impressive. Also, wanted to report that we follow the state numbers for COVID, and they continue to march their way up, and not in an alarming manner. But what's quite clear is that we're seeing consistent positives in the Village of Pleasantville every day in the state system, and no doubt a substantially larger number of positives through at-home tests that never get into the state system. So just a reminder to folks that conditions are way better than they were, but COVID is not gone. One ought to be cautious, and we really, really encourage people to get, if they're not fully immunized, to get it, and to get the bivalent booster, which is now out there and available at a lot of pharmacies. Really, I think, a wise thing to do. Likewise, the flu shot. Just heard today that this childhood RSV issue is growing to the degree that at least one person we're aware of had to be diverted from a Westchester hospital to one in the city because the pediatric facilities were full. So lots to be careful about amid all of that. Report from the Chamber of Commerce about holiday downtown window contest. Paul, are you aware of that whole thing?
I came to find out about it just recently.
All right. So starting December 1, folks will have the opportunity to vote on downtown storefront decorations. Votes will get taken, I guess, at the bookstore on Washington at Kimberly House on Wheeler. Have I got that right, Eric?
That's right.
And who's going to be doing the decorating?
The merchants.
So each merchant will decorate their space if they wish to. And so thanks to Kathy Dinkle, the beautification department committee, and our rec department that's involved in all of this. And thanks for the Chamber of Commerce for playing a role in all of that as we try to turn the community into a bit of a holiday scene. Con Edison has been sending around emails, maybe you got it as well. Apparently there is a new spate of scams with folks calling or appearing and pretending to have something to do with Con Ed billing or Con Ed in general. If someone comes to your door, Con Ed reports, as they always do, that you should require identification from them. And if someone comes to your door or calls you by phone asking you to change the way you normally pay your electric bill, short version of a long story is don't do it. leaf pickup is ongoing and will continue until December 10 or for the first snowfall. I know some folks have reached out and said, hey, when you come into my neighborhood, but we're certainly making the rounds throughout the village. So then lastly, I wanted to send a shout out in the wake of Election Day. The Village of Pleasantville has, or will, effective January, have a new congressman, Mike Lawler. Congratulations, and we look forward to working with you. We will have a new / old state senator, Peter Harcum, our state senator for the last some years, was redistricted, and we are now in Andrea Stewart Cousins' district. She won re-election and will be our state senator, which is a reprise of a run we had years back when Andrea Stewart Cousins was our state senator quite a few years back. And then lastly, Marianne Shimsky has been elected to the Assembly and is our new representative there. So, House of Representatives, New York State Senate, New York State Assembly, all new faces for the Village of Pleasantville, effective in the new year. We look forward to working with all of you. And then, David, why don't you just give people another shout out about the library master plan and where they might take a look at it to start to build some awareness of what you talked about.
Sure, and actually I have two things. So the Mount Pleasant Public Library, which has its main branch in Pleasantville on Bedford Road, and a branch in Valhalla near the town pool, undertook a master plan study to look at the possibility for renovating those spaces. I was on the design committee to represent the village, and partially because my day job involves libraries as well. And hired an architect, HMA2 Associates Henry Meyerberg, and came up with plans to renovate our library in Pleasantville, as well as the branch. The total costs for both of those of a little bit under $11 million. The library itself, due to some very generous bequests, can fund about $5.5 million, and the plans are pretty extraordinary. And there's a dramatic improvement of the 22,000 square foot library space, and really freeing up a lot more of that to be useful to the public. Plans for an outdoor amphitheater and pergola, as well as dramatically improved seating and a children's area that connects to a new program. So there's a lot of potential benefits. We'll be discussing this in the village and hopefully in the town in the coming months. But you can go to the library's website or to the village website to find the master plan proposal, including three-dimensional drawings, so you can really get a good sense of what that would look like. The second quick thing I just wanted to mention was to thank some folks for helping out. We had the 3rd annual candy crawl on October 30th. We gave away somewhere around 4,000 pieces of candy. It was a little bit later in the day, and actually for me personally into the darkness in the evening. But we saw lots of kids. We wanted to thank the Pleasantville Fire Department, Chief Madison Martineau, the Pleasantville Volunteer Ambulance Corps, which for a time sent all 3 ambulances with us on one of the candy crawl routes.
In case of a glucose.
There was great narration too. It was really extraordinary. I want to thank Michael Peppard for joining me. We had Aaron Ballard from the Pleasantville Unified School District, the new board member there, join us. So it was really a nice time, and great to see all the kids of the village out and enjoying the night. So thank you very much for that.
This involve a slingshot, a cannon, or just an overhand?
Yes, lots of overhands. There were lots of volunteer children, and we actually, I should also mention, we had our TV station joined us, and with a really magnificent convertible, and Joanna from Pleasantville, is it Pleasantville Now? Her show, What's Up Pleasantville, yeah, so that was really fun too, so quite an evening.
All right, great. Any other announcements?
Just a congratulations to Pleasantville High School football team for winning the section. And they'll be on the road to state next Friday, continuing their undefeated season.
I didn't hear the results, but the girls cross country team and the swim team were both in the running for.
Absolutely, yeah. So
You know how that worked out? I didn't hear the results.
I don't. The swim team is a unified team with 3 other schools,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure.
All right. Well, congratulations to all of them. I don't know what's in the water, but seems like it's an athletic powerhouse for a relatively small village, and congratulations to those athletes. Anything further? All right. With that, we will get ourselves to the resolutions. 213. Share my screen here. Okay.
313, right?
313 for the Insite.
Result of the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract payment of claims dated November 14, 2022 for the fiscal year 2023, covering check numbers 105,473 to 105,684. General fund, $570,784.20. Special purpose, $397.50. Water fund, $59,540.96. Capital fund, $368,353.51. Revenue fund, $49,318.67, for a total of $1,048,394.84.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Marcy, it's too much.
Yeah, sorry. That, the big payment out of the capital, we paid for a sanitation truck finally arrived. So
Has it arrived?
it has arrived.
Wow.
So, well, it
was a long
arrived.
wait.
We needed to kick it back because we didn't like some things on it. Finally came back in a condition that we're willing to pay.
It's grand. We love it.
Yes, we love it. We love it very much.
You driving it home just to test it?
Yeah. Not very efficient, but yes.
All right, comments, questions on the approval of claims? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 314, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 24th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or corrections to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. David, 315.
Resolve the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the resignation of Mary Daniels, Recreation Assistant, Panther Club, effective October 21st, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
As you have likely seen, we've had conversations over the last some weeks about trying to expand Panther Club to accommodate more kids off the waiting list. And we are seeking to do so. That depends on more staffing. Here's one where we're losing a staff member. So a shout out to the entire village. If you know of someone who might be interested in a part-time job in the afternoons with Panther Club, reach out to our rec department. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Article 316.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Thomas Tobiason to the position of part-time bus driver at a salary of $20 per hour effective November 15th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Happy to report that we're able to restock in that open position. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Back to Paul 317.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from the Recreation Department to hold the annual holiday sing event from 7 p.m. on Thursday, December 1st, 2022 at the intersection of Manville Road and Great Oak Lane. And further resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes police chief to conduct traffic restrictions in support of the event.
Is there a second? So this will be a big moment for us to have the tree lighting, the dreidel lighting, and the holiday sing event in front of the brand new, a slightly smaller, but not leaning tree.
To give more update on that, because I'm the chair of that from the chamber, we will have a band that's going to start playing, I believe, at about 6:45. Pace has also agreed that they will be sponsoring the hot chocolate. The chamber is also going to get some desserts, and we will have the wooden fire food truck there as well, for anyone who wants to get some food.
Exciting.
So it's just adding a little more to it. We plan on having, I believe, the middle school perform as well, and then the band will perform again after we do the tree lighting ceremony.
And add to that, we're going to add a little new piece of tradition, which is a oversized ruler so that you can stack your children in front of these holiday decorations in front of a ruler and establish an annual tradition and not have to put pencil marks on the kitchen doors.
Who's growing faster, the tree or the teenager?
Exactly.
Should be a great event.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Sounds good.
3-1, please.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby suspends parking meter fees for the time allowed on 1, 2, and 3 hour meters from Thursday, November 24th, 2022 through Sunday, December 25th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is our annual venture. We bag the meters. You don't have to pay for parking at 1, 2, and 3 hour meters, but you are still required to respect the time limits. So if you're at a 1 hour meter, you don't have to park, but you only get 1 hour and you're liable to get a ticket if you try to exceed that. I can say that that's been an issue at various points. So in the spirit of the season, pay attention to time limits and try to act in accordance with the goals of this whole program, which is to make it easier to come to Village of Pleasantville and do your holiday shopping and support our merchants. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved 319.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Pleasantville Music Festival to be held on Saturday, July 8th, 2023 at Parkway Field.
Is there a second?
Second.
Some ongoing discussion with Bruce Figler about whether we should move the date a week or so in one direction or another. In the end, as many pros as there were cons, keeping it the same, the second Saturday of July, this year, July 8th. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved 320.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from Holy Innocents Parish to close the Tompkins Avenue parking lot to public parking on Saturday, November 19th, 2022 from 9 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. for the purpose of a parish special event.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just every time we come up with these, I remind folks that that entire parking lot is owned by the church. And the public parking is an arrangement the church and the village have had for a very long time, where the village maintains and plows the lot in exchange for taking advantage of the available parking. Many times the church takes it back for their own purposes on a few occasions for the signs, and in this case for a special event in the morning. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 321, Paul.
Whereas the Village of Pleasantville applied for a grant in the amount of $5,000 of the Clean Energy Communities Program to New York State Energy and Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, and whereas the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village treasurer to deposit a check in existing special purpose fund CM.0071 in the amount of $5,000 for the purposes of Climate Smart Incentive Program for partial reimbursement to residents for electric leaf blowers, electric lawnmowers, and electric snow blowers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anything more to say about that? Self-explanatory.
Yeah, so we had a rebate program for electric leaf blowers and lawnmowers last spring. We have now been allocated 2 more grants, and we have another potentially coming down the pipe. So this $5,000 one, we're going to use to extend the rebate program, which was quite successful, and to include also weed whackers and potentially snow blowers. We have a 10,000 grant coming down the pike that will be, I won't tell you too much, but will be on energy, home efficiency. And then we just found out we're going to be eligible for yet another $5,000.
Great. Keep it coming.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 2022, Nicole. You always get the long one.
Whereas pursuant to section 467 of real property tax law, local governments and school districts in New York State can opt to grant a reduction on the amount of property taxes paid by qualifying senior citizens by reducing the taxable assessment of the senior's home by as much as 50%. And whereas on August 8th, 2022, the governor signed legislation to amend section 467 of the real property tax law to increase the amount of income property owners may earn for the purpose of eligibility for the senior citizen property tax exemption from $29,000 to $50,000. And whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees desires to amend Chapter 166, Article 3, Section 16 of the Village Code to set the income limit to $50,000 for the 50% senior citizen property tax exemption. And whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees wishes to adopt a sliding scale to provide a benefit to seniors with incomes greater than $50,000, and whereas a proposed local law was introduced on November 14, 2022, and whereas the proposed action is a type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, secret, and no further environmental review is required. And whereas the Board of Trustees is fully familiar with the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing on Monday, November 28, 2022 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to consider the proposed local law to amend Chapter 166, Article 3, Section 16 of the Code of the Village of Pleasantville concerning the senior citizen real property tax exemption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Pretty self-explanatory. We'll have more to say when we have the public hearing on this. So,
Move or second.
yeah. Do we have a second?
Yeah, we seconded it. Yeah. We just need to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. And then related, the follow-on 323. David.
Whereas pursuant to section 459C of real property tax law, the local governments and school districts in New York State may provide a reduction of up to 50% in the assessed value of the residence of qualified disabled persons. And whereas on August 8, 2022, the governor signed legislation to amend section 459-C of the real property tax law to increase the amount of income property owners may earn for the purpose of the eligibility for the property tax exemption for persons with disabilities and limited income from $29,000 to $50,000. And whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees desires to amend Chapter 166, Article 8, Section 30 of the Village Code, set the income limit to $50,000 for a 50% reduction in the assessed value of the residence of qualified disabled persons. And whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees wishes to adopt a sliding scale to provide a benefit to qualified disabled persons within incomes greater than $50,000. And whereas a proposed local law was introduced on November 14th, 2022, and whereas the proposed action is a type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and no further environmental review is required. And whereas the Board of Trustees is fully familiar with proposed local law, now therefore be resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville shall hold a public hearing on Monday, November 28th, 2022 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to consider the proposed local law to amend Chapter 166, Article 8, Section 30 of the Code of the Village of Pleasantville concerning the real property tax exemption for persons with disabilities and limited incomes.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the reason I hesitated, Eric, in the heading of both 322 and 323, shouldn't it say consider scheduling a public hearing on November 28th, not November 14th?
Yes.
So as the mover and seconder on 322 and 323, agreeable to that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 324. Michael.
We do not have a resolution.
Yeah. Just
Oh.
attachment.
Just attachments.
That would be just resolved that the Village Board of Trustees approves the standard construction.
All right. Resolved, the Village Board of Trustees approves the standard construction details in the attachments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very graceful, Mr. Pepper.
I'm willing to wing it every time.
Has there-
We're allowed to do that.
We had a work session discussion with our new DPW Superintendent Anthony Carr and his proposed modification of the standard construction details. We appreciate his thorough effort in an effort to regularize all of this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 325. Back to you, Paul.
Whereas the Village of Pleasantville issued a public bid for the rehabilitation of the west staircase of Village Hall, and whereas bids were opened on August 19, 2022, with the low bid issued to Nuco Painting Incorporated of Islandia, New York, in the amount of $81,000. Now therefore be resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizing the village to enter into contract with Nuco Painting Incorporated for $81,000. And be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the creation of capital account for rehabilitation of the west staircase and transfer of $81,000 from the general fund, the fund balance to this account.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is the back stair in Village Hall, not a public stair, but we had over various projects, resolution of some roofing issues and water infiltration issues, and now this will restore the wall surfaces and the paint conditions. All in favor?
Well, it seems. What all is being done for
The back stair here, it's quite a substantial project involving fixing, peeling plaster and spalling areas of the wall, and there's some lead abatement involved in all of the above. We sent it out to bid, and this is the best we got back. We were hopeful that it would be a smaller number, but it isn't an insignificant job.
Okay.
You missed your chance to bid on it.
It's hard to conceive of,
It is, yes.
hard to conceive of what's being done for $81,000.
Well, you can go low.
I would like that.
Yeah. All right.
We have other, yeah, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 326, Michael, was that, or are we back to, oh, yes.
We're 27.
326.
Okay. Did I just read one?
Yeah, you just.
I just read the
Falls for three.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. We're 326, right? Yeah. Whereas,
Long enough for me.
whereas
That's fine. Why didn't think it was hers?
of the Village of Pleasantville and Heli Shah, Deputy Village Treasurer, Ms. Shaw, have entered into an agreement concerning Ms. Shaw's employment effective January 19, 2021. The agreement, and whereas the parties have had discussions concerning a one-time amendment to the agreement, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby ratifies and approves the amendment to the agreement between Ms. Heli Shah and the Board of Trustees dated November 14, 2022, and authorizes the village administrator to execute same, and the amendment to the agreement is attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this simply provides some workplace flexibility to accommodate Heli's needs at the moment. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 327. David,
Resolve the village administrator is authorized to sign proposal from Insite Engineering for the design and construction oversight services for the Wheeler Avenue traffic signal.
is there a second?
Second.
So we heard in work session from Rich Williams from Insite Engineering, the next chapter in a many years long saga about how to resolve the problems and the disagreements with the Department of Transportation about the dual signals at Manville and Wheeler and Manville and Washington. There does appear to be a way forward finally. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 328. Michael.
Resolved that the village administrator is authorized to sign the proposal from Wagner Hodgson Architects for scoping design services for the Memorial Plaza temporary condition.
Is there a second?
Second.
Likewise, we discussed in work session, Wagner Hodgson are the landscape architects who developed the schematic designs for our proposed civic space. We are undertaking the work that will close the slip lane as part of the Manville Road project that will happen in the spring. And we are seeking Wagner Hodgson's advice about what work might be done to create the most effective, attractive, and forward-thinking interim condition when the slip lane is closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Last one, 329. Paul,
Is it me back?
that's you back. Exits.
Result, the Village of Trustees approves a funding request of $100,000 to Westchester County for the construction of 2 lighted crosswalks.
Is there a second?
Second.
So as we heard from Anthony Carr, our DPW superintendent, in the diesel memo, following on to some request from our pedestrian committee. We think that Westchester County may be in a position, no guarantee, to offer us a grant to do some pilot projects. In this case, to use some of the newer technology lights that can be used for crosswalks. And so we're seeking a funding request of $100,000 to see if we might be awarded such a grant to make that work. If we do get such a grant, the two crosswalks being discussed at the moment are the ones that are on Memorial Plaza, the one adjacent to the diner, and the one that is across from the gazebo. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. We've gotten to the end of our agenda. Any new business? Any comments of any kind? Any comments from members of the public? If anyone is still with us,
That would be Abby, I believe.
I see no raised hands. Nobody in the room and nobody on Zoom. Let me remind everybody once again, today is Monday the 14th, 2 days from now, Wednesday the 16th, Pleasantville High School Auditorium, 7 p.m. A community town hall on matters of village development. You can pick up the Zoom link at pleasantville-ny.gov. If you would like to ask a question and prefer not to speak, or would like to ask a question and are not able to attend, you can send that question with your name and address to info@pleasantville-ny.gov, and we will endeavor to answer it. But all folks should be aware that they can watch this, the tape of this event afterwards at pcpv76.org, and it certainly will not be the last occasion where we encourage people to let us know how they're feeling and what they think. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion adjourned. Thank you all. See you in 2 weeks on Monday, the 28th. If we don't see you sooner at the town hall on the 16th.